more.
Hey, it's Luskos.
Hey.
Look at us go. Squinting in the sun, squinting in the Florida sun.
Sunny sunshine.
We're here at Kennedy Space Center in beautiful, I guess, Cape Canaveral, Cocoa Beach area, just an hour drive from Orlando. This is one of our favorite things we've done as a family. Are you hiding?
No.
And highly recommend, 10 out of 10. If you're a parent, if you got kids, and at some point in your life you find your way in Florida, make plans to come to Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, you've got to do it.
It's incredible. We went 7 years ago, and now to come back, they've added to it. There's so much to see. The Shuttle Atlantis exhibit is phenomenal. The Saturn V is, you got to make that happen. Mm-hmm. Pro tip, you got to get here first thing in the morning to get a free ticket for the Saturn V bus, but that's worth doing. Anyhow, the reason we're here in Florida is our friend Shane Kimbrough, who is an astronaut with NASA, is the commander of the SpaceX Crew 2 mission that's headed to the International Space Station aboard the Dragon 9 rocket. And we came to town to support him. Yeah. Today, Thursday, is the day the launch was supposed to happen, but it got postponed to tomorrow at the earliest because of weather, not where we are. Obviously, you can see, look at that weather. It's beautiful, it's so nice. But because of weather up north, when the rocket takes off, the flight path has to be clear for abort options all along the way. And so because there's weather moving in to the north, somewhere in New York, between New York and Nova Scotia, they had to postpone.
Weatherman.
Sorry, they had to move the launch. So tomorrow is the plan. If you can watch on YouTube, 6:11 or 5:59 a.m. I think it's
Eastern time.
5:53. Oh. The launch is set for like 5:53 a.m. Eastern.
5:49.
Watch it live on NASA's YouTube channel. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. We're so excited to be here.
We're gonna wake up at 2 a.m. Are you ready for that? Woo! Maybe never go to bed. Who's to say? Hey, well, we had the chance when they were 10 days out from the scheduled launch day to have a conversation with Shane Kimbrough, who's the commander of this mission. It's going to be his third trip to the International Space Station.
Yeah.
First living American to ever ride in 3 different spaceships. John Young previously had done that as well. And so now as he steps foot on this one, it'll be the 3rd time he's gone on a spacecraft. He had been on the shuttle and been on the Russian Soyuz. We're just so proud of him.
And honestly, we love Shane and his wife, Robbie, so much. They're really special to us. So today's a special. It's
really cool
podcast.
To get the perspective of an astronaut's wife. What is it like to send your husband to space? And man, my arm is getting so tired.
My turn.
I thought this was going to be a shorty, but here we are just gabbing away. You get me talking about space. Gabbity, gabbity, gabbity.
That's true.
Anyhow, this is a great conversation. We encourage you tomorrow, get up early, watch the launch on YouTube, or you could watch it archived. It'll be archived after that. Enjoy this conversation with Shane and Robbie Kimbrough. Thanks for listening to this podcast.
We love you.
Now I must be free in NASA. Well, Shane and Robbie Kimbrough, we are so happy to welcome you guys to Hey, it's Luskos.
We are so happy to be here. I'm glad it all worked out that we could chat with this crazy stuff I got going on here in a week and a half or so.
Yeah. Let's get right down to that, because that is the thing. I mean, obviously behind you guys, those of you who are watching on video can see a whole ton of space stuff. And about 10 days today, no sooner than, I like that language, no sooner than 10 days from today, you'll be headed off to the International Space Station, Shane.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We have, of course, an amazing crew. We've been trained by amazing people from all around the world, literally. So it's just neat to represent those people and really stand on their shoulders as we go off and do what we have always dreamed about and love doing, and that's flying in space.
Gosh.
And Robbie, you will be for the 3rd time now with your husband, your best friend, watching him go off into the wild blue yonder. That is equally probably gut-wrenching just as much as it is preparing for a mission. Kind of I would wonder, preparing for that yet again.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's easier this time because the kids are grown, and I think my role in the past has been to keep things as normal as possible for the family. And the kids are grown and they're young adults, and they're excited about coming to Florida. And just really pumped to see Shane again and all of that. So it's a different kind of preparation. We've had a lot of quality time, one, because of pandemic, and two, because of quarantining at home, before he goes. So I don't feel ripped off of time, because I'm busy running around with kids and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's different. Every time has been so different. I mean, long ago, the kids were small, then we were in Kazakhstan last time, and now we're going back to Florida, and it'll be interesting.
Gosh, how old were the kids when at the first launch?
They were 8 and 10.
Yeah, 5th grade and 3rd grade. So elementary school.
So it's totally different, right? For them, they didn't really understand like what was going on, right? I mean, they knew I was launching, but what they remember about that trip was they got to hang out with all their cousins on the beach.
And they went to Disney the day before.
They went to Disney and just did fun stuff. And that's what they remember. Oh, yeah, Dad launched too. But, the cool
Dad, could you leave the world more often? Because that was the greatest.
Exactly. It's like these little vacations to Florida are great.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
which
is great. That's the way we wanted it, right? They didn't really, again, understand everything and Robbie really did a great job of just letting them have fun and enjoy what they could. And they had a great time. Yeah. And the last launch, they were, I think, 18 and 16. So a little bit different, right? Different stage of life. They didn't get the chance to come over to Kazakhstan to see me launch just due to the girls were just starting school in college, and Zach was into his junior year in high school, and you have to take about 2 weeks out to go make that journey over there to Moscow and then to Kazakhstan. So just didn't work out for them. And so they watched here from Mission Control in Houston, and, I'm sure they had many emotions that I can't even understand when you're seeing your dad, or mom, in a lot of cases, going through something like this. So of course we love them. We're super proud of them. And this time, it's a little different. They're super excited about it.
Yeah,
So they totally they understand it. They get it. The SpaceX thing has made it cool again, I think, for sure. In their minds. NASA couldn't quite make it cool.
It's definitely become sexier. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The image, I think it finally caught up with movies a little bit. It's got the Tron vibe.
Absolutely.
So it's again very different for them, but I'm looking forward to seeing them. I think I get the chance to see them a couple of times down in Florida before I go. And
good.
But even because of quarantine and all that is behind the glass.
Yeah, we'll be separated behind the glass to talk to them for me, and but still, it's great to see them at least. And
now NASA's been quarantining before the quarantine was a thing. We all finally have got a taste of what has been a normative part of astronaut experience in life. So right now you said a hard quarantine. How long is that one?
2 weeks long, but so 2 weeks before you launch is kind of a standard quarantine that we in the space business have been doing for many, many years. So if you're going to the space station living for long duration, like the Russians have been doing for a while, and we have, you're in a 2-week quarantine. So this is, again, nothing new for us, at least at this point in the game. But of course, this last year has been pretty crazy, and being in different stages of quarantine all throughout the year.
And obviously, on the back end, that's not, you mentioned they do that somewhat after long duration space flight.
We don't have any quarantine restrictions on the back end. Now, they're being pretty careful with COVID because when we come back, we are. Our immune system is certainly down. It's not 100%. And so at least for the last couple of folks that have come home recently, they've taken special precautions to make sure their family members were all tested and vaccinated in some cases, so that just to try to minimize that risk of them coming back into this crazy world. Some of them launched before the pandemic, and then 6 months later, they come back into this Earth that they don't remember. Right?
Oh my gosh. So there were some astronauts on the space station who came back home mid-pandemic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My gosh.
So, they were the smart ones. They're like, we should have just stayed up there. This is great. What are we even doing?
I remember one of them calling us, and it was literally April of last year. And we're like, dude, think twice before you come back down.
But it's going to be over soon.
Yeah,
just a couple more weeks.
We totally believed by summer it'd be done, and it was just the way we were talking at the time.
Yeah. I think all of us thought that.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And yet here we are, the wild world.
Here we are.
Okay. So, please. No, Jenny.
No, so going back, like, Shane, did you dream of being an astronaut as a kid?
I did. I've had the good fortune of my grandparents living across from the Kennedy Space Center when I was growing up. And we spent a lot of time down there. For every vacation, pretty much my parents would drive us down there. And then we even lived there for a couple of years when my dad was deployed to Vietnam. during that conflict. So really the inspiration for all this is my grandfather, who would drag me out to see anything that was launching back in the late 60s, early 70s. And didn't know it at the time. I was probably kicking and screaming, not really enjoying myself right as a kid being out there, but little did I know, planting seeds that would eventually turn into me wanting to be an astronaut, and that actually becoming true. So I owe a lot to him, and he's been my hero for my whole life and still is.
Wow. That is beautiful.
That's
What age
beautiful.
would you have been touring for the first time that you remember?
Oh, back then I was like from ages 2 to 5 was when really kind of the heyday. We were trying to get to where we got to the moon in the late 60s, early 70s. So I got to see some of those launches. Of course, I didn't understand how massive that was in history back then, but I certainly look back on it and was so blessed to be able to be a part of that.
That's so beautiful. That's so encouraging in so many ways, but one of people who are parents or grandparents who might feel bad for like, oh, I shouldn't drag my kids or grandkids to go do this stuff. But just that like boldness to do that, because you never know that as you're taking your kids through a museum, or maybe they're yawning and hating it the whole way, you never know what seeds are being planted.
Yeah.
That's so true.
For sure.
Yeah, really good point. And we've done that with our kids, and of course they didn't enjoy everything we took them to.
For sure.
But we'll see here, honestly, in the next few years, what kind of seeds that were planted back then, and we've already seen some of it. Honestly, just with their work ethic and the way they're behaving as young adults has been really encouraging to us, and makes us super proud.
And you don't know. I mean, you don't know. We're, like you said, we see some of it, but we're seeing some things that we didn't think we were influencing at all, like college choices and stuff like that. And lo and behold, you see a little bit of them following in footsteps and things like that. But, yeah.
That's amazing.
Okay, obviously you're referring somewhat to Zach going to West Point in his father's footsteps, and that's got to be so rewarding, and yet also a little bit daunting because some of the hardship that is coming for him, and you can't really prepare him for what.
Right, absolutely.
To some degree, it's just going to be. And then obviously the girls, the twins, the daughters, they're going to the same school you went to, right, Robbie?
No, they're in grad school, and one went to Baylor, one went to TCU for undergrad. But I think of my daughter Taylor, for example, and she had the opportunity to work with special needs kids in high school, and now she wants to be in occupational therapy. Like this one little class that she took in high school, changed the trajectory of her whole life, and just encouraging her to do that sort of thing. And
Caitlin wants to be a PA because she got a chance to shadow a PA in high school and in college, and now that's what she's training to do.
And it's just a one moment in time sort of thing, but it and you wonder how these 18-year-olds have to make decisions like this, but it really does, it's funny what affects them.
Yeah. Well, your kids are amazing, and we've gotten to hang out with them a few times, but what are some things like, some practical things looking back that you see, because your kids are so honoring and kind, and they work hard, like you said, like how they're living their lives are so beautiful. What would you say looking back as they were little, there were things that you can kind of give handles to of like, oh, I see. I mean, yes, God is so good and he will take care of our kids even in the midst of our parenting mistakes and not mistakes, but what are some things looking back? Oh, definitely
there's some mistakes.
That's a whole nother show.
We have plenty of mistakes.
But some things that could be helpful for parents listening who.
Well, I think, I don't know, we just did things differently a little bit. The big picture was God first, each other second, and then family third. And it doesn't, have to be like, well, it is a rank ordering, but putting God first in our lives is the number one piece of advice I could give anybody. But we were different. We didn't do things like everybody else. They certainly played sports, and they did things, but we weren't in the super competitive travel leagues of all of that. And that's a little bit older than small
but
children.
not that that's wrong. It's just we chose not to do that and part of it, honestly, was because of my job. And we wanted them, when I could be home, we wanted to be home. But I was, coaching a lot of their teams and stuff. So for me, that was a real thrill. It was just, we didn't, I guess take the next step. And it's a very competitive community that we live in every way.
Big city.
And you really do have to reorder your entire life around some of those sports. If you're going to do it, you have to,
for sure.
It has to be like almost like the thing in your life.
Right.
And so we just chose not to do that, intentionally. And, it's not perfect. It's not great, but I think we certainly enjoyed having them around more and having each other around
Right.
more.
And
Instead
we
of
made,
traveling every
we made our
weekend.
marriage
And-
a priority too.
Yeah.
We didn't let them take over our lives in a sense. So they saw us honoring God. They saw us honoring each other. And then, then honoring the family aspect of it, I think, and just sitting down to dinner together, as much as we could, and making it a priority. Dad's home this week. We're all eating dinner at 6:00, that sort of thing. But
That is huge.
Yeah.
What you just said, though.
Yeah.
I think the temptation, and probably a lot of people listening, maybe babies, young kids, the temptation can be to make the whole family orbit around the child and all that. And then the tragedy, of course, comes when kids graduate off to high school and all of a sudden you look up one day and you hardly know each other because you replaced the center of your marriage with each other and with God with this baby that always from the beginning was the plan was for the child to go and launch. And yet now in the empty nest stage, which should be the most rewarding, joy-filled, you realize, I don't know you. And you guys are saying like that's a mistake that you guys have avoided.
Yep.
That's
Right.
We've nailed, you really nailed it there. And we've seen many friends that have kind of fallen into that. And we were, this was never easy.
and never perfect.
Never
Don't wanna sound
perfect,
like we
never
were,
easy.
man.
But we
Yeah.
had some really incredible mentors that kind of got us through all these different stages of life with the kids. And we were just fortunate, honestly, to have those kind of people in our lives. And we, we're trying to do that to younger families that we in the
What do you
community
remember
as
of
well.
what those mentors spoke to you, or maybe who were they? How did you come into relationship with them?
Yeah, and generally, a few from church, a few from my work, a few just people Robbie got to know. So it's a wide range of folks. And we started doing life with them and doing community with them. And that's, we just, a lot of times they're not telling us how to do things. We're just watching them and observing how they're doing life, right? And how they're managing their kids and how they're making, themselves as a couple the priority versus their kids. And it's super hard to do, especially when you're in the throes of it. And we totally get that. But it pays
I think
off.
you've said this,
Pays
Levi,
off.
or just be careful who you let speak into your life. I think I've heard that, from you and from other pastors. It's just, you have a circle of friends, but be careful who's putting, words on your life and how, and how you let that affect you.
Yeah.
And I think, just God honoring couples, you can be friends with everybody. Absolutely. We have a wide circle of friends, but just know that the ones that have influence on your life and who you're trying to model your marriage and your life after, to some degree, be careful.
That's so good. That's so insightful, because I think so many of us were wanting people to mentor us. Like, I want you to speak into my life. But really, if you find good examples, I mean, you should have people that you're conversing with and asking wisdom from. But if you can see someone's life and how they love each other and how they love their kids, how they're like, you can learn so much by just observing. But then on the flip side, knowing that people are watching you. So like for us in our marriage, knowing that we have young married couples with kids or whatever, they're watching how we love each other and honor each other and raise our kids. So it's like that two-sided where you're learning, but also being learned from, I think that's so powerful. Well, and you guys honestly are that for us. You guys are that
100%.
Definitely. And the couple, however long ago that was, where we got to spend like the whole weekend together, like we were learning so much from you guys, and we're so thankful for how you have lived this life in your marriage with your kids. And you really have been leading the way for people to watch and follow. And so we're so grateful for you in that way so much.
Another thing we were talking about, or we talked about in the past, is for married couples out there is try to find something to do together, right? And so for us, that was probably 10 years ago now, but we decided to go teach youth at our church,
high school,
right? So take an 8th grade group and take them all the way through graduation in high school, and I never imagined how powerful that was going to be for us as a couple and for me personally. Where you think you're teaching these kids, right? And they're going to learn everything, but no, we're the ones that really got blessed by that
and
situation.
there's this curriculum and you're just, going through the Bible, talking to, but it was more their stories and what they were going through, and them knocking on the door on a Saturday night, just wanting somebody to talk to, and being just the year ahead of our oldest kids, of our daughters, was so educational for us too, of what was coming next, kind of.
It's a preview of coming attractions a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was incredible.
And problems and good things,
Yeah.
you know, and what was going on at the high school at the time and all of that. But we learned a lot about parenting, just being with those kids, and we still are in relationship with them and you know,
Wow.
buddies on Instagram and stuff like that.
So,
That's
just encourage
amazing.
folks that it doesn't have to be that, but find something that you can do to
together.
help in the community.
I mean, y'all do your
something.
life together. You know, you have your ministry and stuff, but find something you can do.
That's so cool.
Even in those younger years, like just, you know, in some ways, some people might be coaching. Some of it might be just holding babies at church, you know, just whatever. But try to find something you can do.
That's
as a
so
couple.
inspiring.
That
I
is
love
massive. And just maintaining that over time, something that you guys can continue to grow. And you guys do a lot of things together. You guys like walks, you guys like being outside. What else do you guys like to do when there's a day off and you're both on the
Travel.
same planet?
We used to like to travel.
Travel was fun.
Remember those days? I know you guys are obviously big fans of you too.
Yeah, concerts were good. So concerts and travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we like to do now? Now it's just walking, being in nature. We like being outside. We both enjoy being outside any way we can. I mean,
We don't quite have the scenery you
No.
do, but one day we're going to get out and see your scenery
Yes.
for real. And
yeah.
I think
enjoy that.
at the time people are listening to this, Shane, I don't think anybody will have better scenery than you will at the moment. And we will wave to you as you go by.
that. Seriously.
Everybody go outside
Just
tonight
won't
and
get-
wave.
Yeah, we'll have no. We just won't have the elements and the wind and the feeling of, you know, nature and blowing on us or smells or anything like that. So that's what we miss up there. But the view is absolutely
You'll
spectacular.
just have burnt toast and weightlessness.
Well said.
Oh my gosh.
said.
Now, I would love for those listening to haven't had the luxury of hearing the story firsthand. Maybe talk a little bit about how you guys met when you guys first came together.
Sure. Yeah, this was back in high school when we met. Robbie is a year younger than me and still is.
Yeah.
But
Funny how that works.
Just
Yes.
had a
yeah, it's
birthday.
crazy how that works. She was trying to
Aw.
catch me for a while,
Yeah.
but no, we met in high school at a youth group activity. We went to different high schools, kind of in the same area, different cities, but same county, back in Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, suburb of Atlanta. And so we met there, and it's kind of a funny story because she then was dating or started dating my best friend in high school. And so that went on for a little while. And so that's how I got to know her, was we would do double date in high school and just get, saw her at church and that kind of stuff. And then I went off to West Point, and Robbie went to the University of Georgia, and she and her former boyfriend broke up kind of as they made that transition to college. And then we didn't see each other really until towards the end of my college time.
But we wrote letters, old school.
We did.
Yeah.
We were
Aw.
really,
Before the internet.
we were really good friends through all that.
And we just telling each other about the stuff we were going through.
true.
And
people we
pen
were dating
pals.
and- yeah,
Yep.
about life. And
Wow.
it's crazy.
So in
Yeah.
a way that we really knew each other a lot deeper than just a normal relationship, I think, as friends, because of that kind of the writing back in the old days.
I love
Do you
that.
still have those letters?
I do.
Aw.
That is
Somewhere.
a
I
treasure.
should know
a
exactly
treasure.
where they are, but I don't right now.
Yeah.
I have seen them in a recent move, which was 15 years ago.
But then when
Wow.
we really got together for good was I graduated from West Point. I was in the U.S. Army's flight school down in Alabama, and Robbie was a senior at the University of Georgia, and we had kind of both met in Atlanta at this mutual friend's house again, just because they were family friends as well to everybody. And we saw
was
her
fun.
there over break, and just decided, hey, let's
Go out New Year's
go
Eve.
out New Year's Eve and just as friends. And the spark happened, and we were just like, I just knew at that moment, this is the person I'm going to marry. And I never thought of her in that vein before.
Wow.
It's pretty special.
Levi, he wrote it in his Bible.
Wow.
Like, I'm going to marry her like on this day.
Oh my
Not many people know that.
That is beautiful.
Sure enough. I got lucky.
It's pretty powerful. You write it in your Bible.
It is.
Yeah.
That's a solemn place to write down a vow. Yeah. It's like
When I
half,
came back,
it's
when
like half prayer request, half wishful thinking. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Exactly. And then, so not long after that, I guess 9 months after, was it 9 months? After our first date, we got engaged.
Engaged, yeah.
And then not long after that, he went to Desert Storm.
So I got deployed right off the bat
Yeah.
when we were engaged and didn't know it. That's when the Iraqi war was kicking up. And that was back then, there really weren't conflicts. There weren't wars going on. This was a real unusual thing. So
And you were an Apache helicopter pilot in the midst of all that.
correct. Yeah. So, the Army has a really good family support network, right? Generally. But the problem for us was, like, I never went to my duty station because I went right from flight school to
straight
Saudi
to
Arabia.
deployment. Yeah.
And Robbie was never connected with their spouses and the families because we weren't married yet. And she was in Atlanta. They were in Savannah.
Yeah,
so
just got my first
she
job.
wasn't getting much information. It was a really weird time. And again, we were writing letters back and forth, but they would take weeks to get to her.
Yeah.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
before we knew it, the war was over very quickly, thank goodness, for everybody. And I came home right around her birthday that year. So it was a pretty good present.
Wow.
Robbie, what was that season like for you? What's your recollection? It has to be so disorienting, I would imagine.
Lee Greenwood on the radio. It was a very patriotic time for our country. I mean, I remember that. I remember driving to work and hearing these patriotic songs on the radio and just getting so tearful and all of that. But you look back on these things that you go through, these hard times, and it's prepared me for all of this. I mean, I don't like the separation, but our whole life started off this way.
Wow.
And, so it's just God, making me stronger through these circumstances and allowing me to trust him and that he would bring him home to me. And how many times in my life have I had to trust God that he would bring him home to me, so there's a little bit of a theme for sure going through there. And as you get to be our age, you can look back and you can see, and y'all can too, I mean, I'm sure, but see his hand just on your life and teaching you the hard things. And, I don't know.
I'm telling you, I can't wait to read The Astronaut's Wife, the book from Robbie Kimbrough. I'm telling you,
Seriously.
this is 365 devotion, or 100, however many days it's going to be. It'll be 189 plus whatever this one's going to be.
There you go.
Lessons from 500 days separated by space.
That's funny.
Seriously.
Unlike Shane, I have a lot of words.
Yeah. And they're all really well put together.
Oh,
Yes.
you're sweet.
Yes.
I try to be a good listener.
You are a good listener.
Yeah, we get going too, though. Right subject, right moment, right food.
Carrabba's.
It just
Right,
all of a sudden
absolutely.
comes out.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that you didn't have access to the things that the Army normally puts in place for there to be connections. So who did you rely on? Were you living alone? Did you have family
I
around
was actually
you?
living in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house. So I had moved home after college because I worked for a nonprofit and didn't make a whole lot of money. But I mean, that was good. That
Had
was
you
good
guys
support.
started your first home yet together at that point?
No, we were engaged.
Yeah.
So we were engaged when he went to Desert Storm, and
So you hadn't even got married yet. Okay,
No,
gotcha.
no. Yeah. So
That's why a lot of the support wasn't there because
She wasn't
I was
your
living in
significant
Atlanta,
other yet
and
in the
the
government's
unit-
eyes.
yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Right,
Well, right.
right.
And the unit was in Savannah. So yeah, but they were. I mean, this friend of ours who is actually no longer with us, but she made calls to me and everything just out of the kindness of her heart and would check on me, kind of give me an update on where the unit was a couple of times. But this is like a couple of times in 6 months. I'd get a phone call from Jennifer.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
And,
an intense engagement.
and then my parents were great, and his parents were 15 minutes away. Yeah.
so the time I got to call home, this was back in there were no cell phones or anything, right? This was 91. But we got to go. It took like an hour ride out in the middle of the desert, and they had this like AT&T tent set out there that the soldiers could all line up, and we waited for hours in line just to make about a 5-minute phone call.
Oh gosh.
And so I got a chance to connect with Robbie and tell her we're doing okay. The war is pretty much over. We're coming home, relatively soon. And she's like, "How's August 24th sound?"
I set the date while he was over
Yeah,
there
so
because
it's
we were
like,
just going to be perpetually
sounds
engaged.
great.
And,
Oh
and
my
my mom's like, "I'm not
gosh.
putting any deposits down until he gets back."
Yeah. So she was ready to pull the trigger, and I heard the date, in that
Moment.
dusty tent in the middle of Saudi Arabia, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's
it was
really
something to look forward to
special.
coming home for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing.
Well,
So when you got married, or no, when you were engaged, you didn't know you were marrying an astronaut.
No, I was just marrying my high school friend, Shane Kimbrough.
Yeah.
Helicopter
Yeah.
pilot extraordinaire.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I knew that he went right from helicopter school to war. And I was like, I hope he knows what he's doing. But yeah.
Which is a lot. I mean, honestly,
No.
for me to ask anybody to walk into that life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, very stressful and
His
but
parents were a military family that I had known most of my high school career, and they were such sweet people. And so they were, it was nice to
True.
see that role model, if you're talking about role models. But yeah.
Well, thank you to both of you for that sacrifice and for our country and for freedom and for what you guys both put out there by way of sacrifice for all of us. We're very grateful for that.
So
It's
grateful.
It's an honor to do it.
Well, and when people talk to me, especially right now, my friends and just our support system around here, it's almost like they look at you with sad eyes, and I'm like, this is nothing. Military spouses do this all the time.
Wow.
Like I have such a good support system here. NASA takes good care of us, even made some friends at SpaceX that are so sweet and kind. It's something, and I'll miss him, but it's nothing like what the military does for us all the time. So there's that.
Yeah. And you just think about the encouragement that means for everybody whose husband is a fireman or a police officer, just
True.
people
Absolutely.
who wake up every day knowing
Does it every day.
working in a prison or just there's so many high risk jobs out there. Lumberjacks and commercial fishermen, they leave for long months at a time. And
so they're going through similar kind of separations, right, with their families, and we get that. We're not special by any means just because we're separated, and a lot of their jobs are equally as dangerous as mine. So we want to thank them. Obviously all the folks that you mentioned there and all the others that are on the front lines.
But even y'all, I mean, you guys go out and you go on these ministry tours and all of this, and you're separated or you're gone from your normal life. I mean, we see similarities, that people, when you've had to travel and do a lot, especially when you're starting up the church and, different things. So
well, that's the cool thing about drawing parallels and saying, oh, well, there's things I can learn from you that have helped you in what is the unique aspect of your life, but that actually applies to me. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening. No, they can't relate to, I've never seen my husband fly up to space in a rocket. However, there is ways in which they struggle for connection during hard seasons or have to trust God with their spouse. There's a lot of people who have just debilitating fear that something would happen to their spouse or their children or someone they love. So learning to cope with that worry, learning to cope with that fear, learning to deal with and foster intimacy even in times of separation is crucial. And you're saying it sounds like there were things that you put into place early on that have continued to be a benefit to you guys in your relationship as it's grown.
Right.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it earlier a little bit, Levi, but we're in this empty nest stage now. And, a lot of our friends who are kind of ahead of us, really didn't enjoy that, first 6 to 12 months. And we hit day 1 and day 30 and day 90. We're like, this is awesome. I mean, like
we miss them.
We miss the kids, but we loved being with each other all the time.
And the freedom.
It was awesome. And it still is. I mean, so we've really enjoyed that. And it's not easy for everybody. I totally get it. But try to get to where you're really having fun with your spouse, like we were.
See, and that's why I love having you guys in our circle and you guys at that next stage, because you guys are a great commercial for what that season can look like.
Yeah.
But I think what you're describing too, and the reason we have seen lots of people who have had mixed levels of success with it is maybe they didn't put the work in to make the priorities in those early seasons. So things do come back to haunt you for good or for evil. And because of some hard things early on, putting the marriage first when you could have easily let the kids get in there, et cetera, you're now getting to reap the rewards of that. And I think that's why it's really important for there to be those stories communicated. It doesn't have to be terrible. Like you guys, you guys were telling us you guys love to curl up on the sectional and watch movies and read together. And that is amazing. I can't wait for our kids to leave. Like
got a bit of time.
The other day we got a sitter and because we needed to clean out our garage. Like it was like we need to do spring cleaning or else bad things are going to happen. So we got a sitter. And we just cleaned out the garage and organized. And it was one of the most fun things. But it was just us. And we were like, oh, this is how it's going to be when the kids are gone.
It was a light bulb moment. Like we went to the storage unit and we're moving stuff from the winter, Christmas stuff out. And we just had the best day. Like we literally drove through McDonald's and we were joking like, this was one of my top memorable days we've had in the last month. It was just joy being together.
Yeah.
We've been married, it'll be 30 years in August. We planted our first, really our second garden. But we planted a garden the other day, and I don't really have a green thumb or need more things to take care of or anything like that. But So I'm growing all this stuff, and we'll see how it goes.
That's
We'll compare my lettuce to his lettuce in space and see.
Okay,
see who
yes.
wins.
That is hilarious. Now you did on your second stint in space, you did do some growing of lettuce, right, Shane?
We did. Yeah, it was really great.
Still
It's
there?
fantastic. Nope, that's all done. But we're going to grow some chili peppers this time and maybe some tomatoes. That's the plan.
I have tomatoes and green peppers out there as well. So
Aw.
And
go.
that's
so
pretty fun that
sweet.
you guys started that garden together. So every time you work on it, there's that fun connection together.
So it's a cool thing that she wanted to do and just got the idea a few weeks ago. And so we said, all right, let's do it.
That's
which is
really
so just
great.
out of our thing. And we would not have done that if the kids had been at home, because it would be just one more thing, to take
Right.
care of and all of that. So silly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you can't smell in space.
Except for the burnt toast.
but you
you
can
can-
smell.
Yeah, you can
can?
smell.
Oh,
Yeah, your
okay.
senses are all there. You don't have any weather, right? There's no wind. There's no any, the sensations of just walking down the street here, or walking in the mountains and smelling fresh air. We don't have that, right? So our air is pretty good. It's all recycled air, and it in ways smells like a locker room at times. But you get used to it. You get used to it.
Yeah.
Now you guys make your own oxygen up there, though, right?
So it's one of the byproducts of one of the machines we have up there. We also have a machine on the U.S. side that makes oxygen.
It takes like electricity from the solar panels and splits water particles.
Yeah, so it's very complicated, but yeah, you're getting there. And then the Russians have a different system, but they have a machine that also makes oxygen up there. The one on our side right now actually is not working so well, so we're going to take up a couple replacement parts on our vehicle when we launch here in a week and a half, and then we'll hopefully get that thing working up to 100% again. So that because we're gonna have a lot of people up there, we're gonna have 11 people for about a week.
Slumber party.
It's gonna be a big camp
Wow.
out. That is what it's gonna seem like. It's gonna be too many people, honestly, to get much done and to really have functionality up there. But once we get up there safely for about a week, we'll send the other crew home, the crew of 4 that we're replacing, and then we'll be about a crew of 7 for most of the time we're up there.
Now that's really important that you get that machine working, right? Because there's no other air to breathe than what the air you guys create up there, right? Or bring up there.
There's some reserves on the outside. There's some oxygen tanks and things that we can then feed from that into the cabin to make sure we're going to survive and all that, which is great, obviously. But
Great, obviously. Yes.
So we can, so that we can work long term and not just deal with the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
Wow.
a lot to think about there. I do also want to point out, and obviously this has been said, just how casually you said, it's great that there are people thinking about that. We got to know, just things like oxygen. It's like just stuff you don't think about because we live surrounded by this great big old atmosphere. And we have this amazing oxygen that we just get to breathe. But you're going above that. There is not oxygen to breathe. Anything you eat has to be sent up ahead of time. Anything you breathe has to either be secured or brought up. That's intense. But
it is. It's a great testament to all the engineers and scientists, right, that have built this thing over the last several decades now, honestly, and they continue to work on it. And people way smarter than we are, but that are making it happen and making it a livable outpost. It's like the most remote outpost you could ever think of. But it takes all the logistics that you mentioned of food and clothes and water and air, and you got to think of how we're going to resupply that and how we're going to sustain that, not just do it. We've been doing it now for over 20 years. The space station's been there. So pretty incredible. I can't imagine the thousands of people that have actually, made inputs to that to make this International Space Station a reality for over 20 years now. Pretty incredible.
Absolutely. And it's the size of basically a football field, right?
Yeah, when you stretch out the whole space station, it is. And the livable parts that we have are, it's about 6,000 square feet, I think I've heard, when you put all the modules together. But it's modular, right? It's not a big room like you would walk into down here on Earth, but it's pretty big. You can literally be working on something and not see your crewmates all day based on what they're working on, what you're working on. So sometimes we have to be intentional to go say hello to people and have that crew interaction. So you're not just kind of by yourself all day. But.
Wow.
And then there's parts of it too that almost are like a McDonald's play place where you're flying through tubes and stuff to get around to the big modules. And
so, not as fun as that, but, but we do get to fly everywhere. So that's a huge benefit of being there. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go fly now. You just have to fly all the time. Because there's no gravity. So it's pretty sweet. where you learn how to fly. And new timers and first timers up there are pretty funny because they literally are crawling around the floor like a baby would on Earth, right? And where you see the veterans are just zipping around the handrails on the ceiling, what we call it, or because that's where the good pathways are. But until you learn how to fly, you're just literally crawling like a baby. And so it's kind of fun to watch them and then see them develop over the next few weeks and they learn how to fly. So,
oh,
yeah. There's some good teaching metaphors in there. Learning how to fly properly, even automatically being able to fly doesn't make you good at it.
Wow.
True. You can hurt yourself pretty good if you get out of control, and we have to watch a few folks doing that because they get a little too fast, going around corners
too eager.
and break stuff. So we don't want to do that.
Okay, so getting back to the chronology a little bit, you guys are married. You're back from Desert Storm. Did the August 24 date happen for the wedding?
Yes, absolutely.
I got back in April, and then we had a few months there to find a place to live, which is my job at the time because I was living in Savannah, and we visit on the weekends. Mm-hmm. We've always had this long-term relationship. We're a long-distance relationship.
Our whole time dating was long distance.
Never lived in the same place. And I, in a way, it's helped us, honestly.
That's true.
And you look back on it, you're like, okay, God was preparing us then for what was to come.
Yeah.
So,
well, the friendship friendship that you have now definitely points to years of strengthening that. And that's really cool to see.
And you didn't have the option of the intimacy. We talk to young couples a lot and we're like, don't make the mistake of making your courtship and dating just all about the physical aspects of intimacy. Mm-hmm. That'll fall into place with work and time together. But you want a base of a friendship to support the mountain of your relationship. And you guys.
Right. And if all you have sometimes is phone conversation, which is the way the season we're about to go into, you want to be able to talk about things and it just can't all be physical, like you're saying, or whatever. You want to be able to have good conversation more than just about what you had for dinner and, that kind of stuff. But, reading a book together or doing whatever we can do, to just have good conversation.
That is so good.
And we started that way. So it's
the continuation now. That's a great point. And so many people, when they first start dating, the chemistry, the sexual energy, all that is so intense. The easiest thing in the world is to give into that, but to not build what can sustain you over decades, over a war, over launches to space and times apart. And so, like you said, you're about to go into the season of phone calls. So how often you get to talk on the phone? How regular is communication up there?
Yeah, well, if it's like we did last time, and I expect it to be, I'll call home every day. We're about 6 hours ahead of Houston time, London. So we're on Greenwich Mean Time in space. So we're ending our day about 10 p.m., which is about 4 p.m. here. So I usually call between 3 and 4 p.m., which
super convenient when you have small children.
Not the greatest time, right? But
they're all screaming in the background.
You're like, just a second when I go talk to daddy.
Things are a little better.
But or you're in the grocery store trying to find dinner and he calls from space. And,
hi, honey.
What does the caller ID say when you get a call from space?
Well, it depends on whatever you put it in. There's 8 different numbers, and I just say ISS because that's what I say. But
So it's really great. Actually, I mean, it's better than obviously my deployment in the military where I got to call it once in several months, right? So it's we're living pretty nice up there with the resources that we talked about. All these incredible people have made for us. So and we get a video chat like this once a week, usually on Sunday afternoons is when we block out that time. So we'll get about 45 minutes, and for us. They can put all of our kids who are in different places and Robbie on the same screen for me. We can
that's
talk
cool.
together.
It's a party line.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's fun. It's
like
something we don't do when we're here. We don't
probably talk more often when Shane.
Yeah, honestly. And I'm like, Shane, you just scooch over while I talk to the kids, or whatever.
That's what ended up happening last time. A couple of times, like, at first it was like, oh, everybody's so excited. And then I just kind of floated in the background a bit. And Robbie was kind of like parenting on the screen. I was like, wow.
I love
done.
that.
The girls were freshmen in college, so there was lots to say.
Yes.
You're like, well, I saw a shooting star today. Quiet. I need to talk to Zach.
Hey, I'm doing a flip here. And they're like,
it's really hard to get attention, Dad. Oh, Dad, you're always flying around. That is so funny.
Oh, you
some
guys.
Some things never change. I got to space. What do I got to do to get respect around here?
Yeah, we try to make it normal, especially with the kids. And they were sending up, homework problems. If they couldn't figure them out, they just email them to me, and especially in math and stuff. And was like, hey, if I can't figure it out, somebody up here will.
I'll go to the Russian side. There's a math genius over there. He's won the Nobel Peace Prize twice. We'll ask him about it.
Oh my God. That is
He's
so
a chess
great.
master.
Can someone solve this?
We got you covered. Yeah.
That is really, really
Oh my
fun.
gosh, you guys.
And then
Very blessed.
what has helped you guys over those during those calls? I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, there's a lot that's just normal and human. But do you guys have any sort of intentional thing you guys do? Read books together, or do you guys have what forms the basis?
We did not last time, but we're going to do
learned
that
a
this
good
time.
lesson. Yeah, we're definitely doing that this time, and just audiobooks and different things like that. I think he's not that you'll have more time, but you're not the commander this
Right.
time. He's the commander of the vehicle going up, but not of the space station.
Right.
So I think
Less responsibility in that regard.
a little
yeah.
bit less,
Yeah.
and just knowing that there is more time. I mean, I was juggling a lot, even with the girls gone. Just last time to not, it was a more. More what'd you do? How'd you do? How are you?
And those conversations
it was
got stale, honestly,
Yeah.
pretty quickly, right? After a month of, just kind of basic chit chat.
right.
It's like, wow, we should have figured something out to do together on this journey. And,
Right.
and there were highlights along the way, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
we're going to try to do better this time.
That's
And really realizing I intentionally this should be his last trip.
That's what you said
And
last
so-
time, though, too.
Yeah, exactly. I've said this before, and I'm like, but
There's an asterisk behind that statement.
No, but really knowing that it will be, and but and just knowing, just kind of taking advantage of that, and I don't know, but yeah, you guys gave us a great book, the Psalms and the Proverbs in 30 days, and I'm. I know he's taking that up there, and that'll be kind of cool because it's small and he can take it with him, and
Love it.
we'll talk about that and go through that. while
Yeah,
he's out.
together.
But
Yeah.
anyway, something I was thinking of about all of this, though, when you said something earlier, it made me think about this. It's how you rely on God when things are hard, and you guys have lived through hard things, whether it's illness and things with the kids and all of that. It's like our relationship as a marriage gets closer during these hard times, and I want to do hard in quotation marks, but during these challenging times.
Yeah.
And so we're in this little bubble of quarantine, and we're purposefully talking about things. And we're being very purposeful. Where when things are light and easy, you're not as purposeful. Even
That's a good
just
point.
that's just something I was thinking about. That
That's so good.
I love these times. I'm sad that he's going, but I love how close we get during these times.
That's so good, Robbie.
6 months in space, a lot of holidays, do you guys find ways to come together? I mean, obviously you'll get the phone calls, and you guys do bring special meals up there for like a Christmas dinner and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
What was the most, I mean, obviously this is your second 6 month stint. What was the most challenging day to be away from each other last time?
Oh, Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas. Although we had a really good time on the space station, sharing our traditions, honestly, with all the other nationalities involved, right? So that was pretty special, honestly. On December 25th, we had everybody on the space station come down to the U.S. segment, and then we shared our traditions and made Christmas cookies and decorated them, which had never been done before, and just fun things like that. And the Russians had never heard of that tradition, but they won the competition, of course. So
Wow.
they won.
They finally found a way to win the space race. Are you saying? Or just a cookie
Nice.
space race edition?
Wow.
Wow. Best
Just fun
Cookies
things
Award.
like that, right? And then on January 7th, which is when they celebrate Christmas, they returned the favor, and we got to go down there and have dinner with them and learn their traditions. And
Wow.
so that was really fun. I mean, it was not fun being away from the family, and I knew they were enjoying it and having a good time, but it just was not. That was a tough one to be a part.
That was the void was really felt, of
Yeah.
just of him not being here.
Absolutely.
Did a video conference line up that day? Were you able to do it, or was it not?
Yeah. We did a Christmas
Yeah.
video conference, so that certainly helped. And
And
this time I'm the exact opposite. 6 months I was up last time, so last time I missed all kind of the major U.S. holidays.
and everybody's birthday.
Yeah, this time is July 4th, which is a big one
And
for
your
the
birthday.
nation.
Your birthday.
My birthday. But
Yeah.
then the biggest one I'm missing is our anniversary. So that's going to be a tough one, but especially it's a big number. So,
I know, 30.
30 years.
that'll
That's pretty dang cool, though, to be.
Yeah. I gotta look forward to making it up when I get back.
Yes.
For sure.
Go take her on a day to clean the garage like I did. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Real
Those
special.
are nice. I hear good things about those kind of days.
Hear
Great
good
idea.
things.
Yeah.
Get a
Great
McDonald's. Get a quarter pounder with cheese.
There you go. Delicious.
That's kind of cool though, that you'll get to experience the other half of it.
Yeah. And we already look
Yeah.
forward to it just because it is summer. Like I've got something exciting almost every month that he's gone, whether it's a friend's kid's wedding or, just Zach coming home for a few weeks, or wedding planning for our own daughter. There's lots going on in May with that. And so you start looking at the calendar and there's things in there that I look forward to each month, and all of a sudden it'll be October. So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so continuing, you're back from the war. You're married now. You end up getting a job at NASA, eventually working on a simulator or a space trainer.
Yeah, the title of the job was Flight Simulation Engineer, but we actually flew a real airplane, a Gulfstream, a modified Gulfstream 2, that was the left side of the cockpit was made to look just like the space shuttle. And the right side was like a normal Gulfstream where the instructor pilot would sit and fly the airplane. And what we did in this airplane was practice and train the astronaut pilots and commanders how to land the space shuttle. So it flew the same profile from about 40,000 feet down to touchdown. And that's how we trained, them to land it. If the folks that know a lot about space will know this, but most folks don't realize that the space shuttle, when it comes into land, it's a glider, and it doesn't have engines that are firing or anything. You have one shot at landing this thing correctly. So the training that I got to do and be a part of for these, I can't remember how many shuttle missions, was really special. And I was not an astronaut at the time. I was just an Army officer working down at NASA.
Wow.
And then through that experience, I think that certainly helped me get my foot in the door, and then eventually get selected as an astronaut.
And that tap came, what was that like when the notification came, hey, you've been selected to become an astronaut?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. We were on a kind of an emotional roller coaster for several months because, the year before we were selected as astronauts is when Columbia happened, the Columbia disaster. So that was rough. We were living here at the time. We knew all those people. They were friends. And so getting through that was very challenging. And then our class we'd had a selection, and then they kind of canceled the selection due to that event for one, and then they were going to have another selection. So we were on this emotional roller coaster for several months, leading up to when they actually, and a couple weeks before they actually announced our class, Congress actually said, yeah, we're not having a class this year. So we were a bit, down, I guess, at that point. But at that point, I had to go back to the Army. I'd been here about 4 years at that point, and I was heading back to go to test pilot school with the Army. But, I don't know what changed in those next several weeks, but the selection was back on, and obviously a God thing. And I got the call from the boss at the time, and asked me to be part of the next astronaut class. So.
Did the phone call end with, if you choose to accept it?
And then it blew up.
Well, they did give a bunch of caveats that, hey, you may never fly in space, and do you still want to come here? And so they
almost
made
like,
it clear.
how bad do you want it? Are you just in it for the glory, or are you willing to?
Yeah.
Well, they were already talking about ending the shuttle program. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
a
at
weird
the beginning
time,
of the end,
and,
yeah.
So anyway, I said
no
absolutely.
guarantees.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were all in, and then got the privilege of flying on space shuttle, which didn't have to happen, of course, because they were ending the program, like Robbie said. So shortly after getting here, my classmates and I got to fly on space shuttle, and then got a Soyuz flight after that, and now on SpaceX.
So, which is worthy of bringing up that you will be the first American to have flown in those 3 spacecraft, which is massive.
Good
Yeah.
That's history. I mean,
That
that's
is
huge.
history.
The
Just
space
humbling.
shuttle, which launched from Florida. So you already have one Kennedy launch under your belt. What is it? The same pad you're about to launch from?
It is exact same launch pad.
What is it? What number is it?
39 Alpha.
39A, which is the one that all the Apollo ones shot off of too, right?
Yep. So that and then shuttle was going off of 39A and B, and we went off A when I was there.
I mean, that's hallowed ground, man. That is.
Wow.
It's crazy to think that. Honestly, it's nuts.
But your capsule is called Endeavor as well.
Our capsule, the SpaceX capsule, is called Endeavor. So they knew I'm not very smart, so they had to make the vehicle.
I was going to say you flew on the space shuttle Endeavor.
Exactly. So they're making it easy on me.
Did you get a say in the naming of it?
No, the first crew that flew on this was back almost a year ago now in May, when Bob and Doug flew. Doug Hurley and Bob Bankin were the test pilots on the very first human space flight on this vehicle, and so they got to name the vehicle Endeavor. And so when it landed in August, ever since they pulled it out of the water, they've been refurbishing this thing for us, but of course it keeps its same name. So we're getting to fly on Endeavour.
Wow.
Which of course is kind of the unique proposition that SpaceX has brought to the table, that everything's really, not everything, but so much of it is reusable.
Oh, it's an incredible business model, right? I mean, we're gonna fly in the first, we call it flight proven. You could say used spacecraft, but we call it flight proven.
That's a very nice synonym.
Flight proven.
And the very first flight proven booster. So the rocket that we're flying on has also been flown before. It launched Crew 1 back in November, excuse me. So we're the first crew to launch on a flight proven booster and flight proven vehicle. So pretty cool.
That'll be when you guys hit 30 years coming up here. The marriage is flight proven.
Oh, there you go.
I like it.
That's it. That's the name of the book,
Nice.
Levi.
Yes.
Flight proven. Robbie, patent that sucker right now.
Hashtag.
I do also want to point out, because obviously I keep calling you Shane, but your, of course, birth name is Robert. So Robert and Robbie, that is kind of a fun thing we haven't ever talked about either.
Yeah, once we got married, I changed my name.
No, you were always Shane.
Just kidding. I was always Shane.
Yeah, but it does confuse people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I go by my middle name, which was kind of a thing back in the time, I guess.
Yeah.
But my dad was named Robert, so that's why I'm Robert as well.
And Robbie, is your name Robbie on paper?
Yes, actually. Yeah.
Her dad's Robert.
Yeah, but he was a Robert as well, but I am Robbie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Jenny's middle
It's not
name,
short for anything.
her dad gave her Michelle because of his name Michael. So he kind of stuck.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of a similar thing there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Very
sorry. Flight proven. I just really got distracted. It was like a squirrel.
I want to
track.
Excuse me.
Squirrel.
Excuse me while I trademark a book title, which you can't actually do, by the way. You can't
You're
trademark
going to have
that.
to tell me how to do that, Levi.
Yes,
Flight
he will
proven.
help
I
you.
feel it. Okay. That is fascinating. And I'm trying to keep, Shane, my nerd space love juices from flowing too much here, because I like the marriage being the focus of this and connection and all that. But that is just really interesting, just how unique those different launch experiences are.
Yeah.
And then the one in the middle being from Star City in Kazakhstan. So just completely, I can't imagine in every sense of the word from SpaceX now and the sleek Tesla, everything. So, just beautiful and minimal. And of course, the tech you were in the last time you were headed out being 1960s tech, still rather rugged and functional, and probably will still work for 50 more years. But what a contrast.
Very big contrast. I mean, the Russian vehicle is very simple. But it's reliable. I mean, they know how to fly in space, and they've, like you said, been using this for the last 50 years. So they've got a lot of great track records, with all their vehicles. And SpaceX is kind of the new kid on the block, right? So they are sleek. They move really fast. It's just amazing to be able to work with them. And just every time we go out there to train, just the energy I get from the workforce is just, it's unbelievable. So it's really inspiring to be out there working and literally with, 20 somethings that are designing everything and building everything and training us. And they're so smart.
Just even the setup of their factory. I mean, I was able to tour that. It's
incredible.
just, they're all working there together. I mean, the person doing the spacesuits is up here and the person building the engine is over here. And it's just all in one.
The whole thing gets
big
built right
hangar.
there. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So
Super cool.
Wow.
it's been neat. It's a great partnership, honestly. I mean, NASA, of course, has a lot of experience, and that's what we bring to the table. We, NASA, when you're working with private companies like this, right? They can do things a lot cheaper than we can, which is just by design and the bureaucracy that we have to go through for a lot of things. And just for example, if we're building a spacecraft, right? So, pieces of that spacecraft have to come from every congressional district. It just has to, right? A piece. Not very efficient. Makes sense, I guess, politically, but, just not very efficient at all, where SpaceX doesn't play that game. They build all their own stuff right there in that hangar and can put it together and test it.
They need a part, they
launch
create it and make it themselves. It's so cool.
So and it's just different. It's different, but it's a great partnership. And, we've been lucky to see our friends launch and recover on this already, this vehicle. And we're going to be the second operational flight with SpaceX with humans on it. So we're very honored to be that crew that's doing that.
And talking about marriage, I mean, Megan on his flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Megan, who's the pilot on our flight, her husband is Bob Benkin, who flew on the very first test flight on this vehicle. So they're going to Megan's flying in the exact same seat on the exact same spacecraft that her husband flew on less than a year ago. So that's a pretty special deal.
Yeah.
That's really special.
That's beautiful.
Gosh.
Robbie, third time around, are you feeling that similar feeling of, oh, this is launch, we're 10 days out now, or, how has that been for you? Different or similar from the previous two?
There's definitely emotions, like staying busy is good and not thinking a whole lot about the stuff. And I mean, you feel, you feel Satan, like the dark stuff come in and you have to say, get behind me, like, do not even come in here. And, and him being here is different than the previous two. And so just kind of having him to say, wow, these are my crazy thoughts today, and then we talk about them and we put them away and then we go back to reality. And this is not, I have such faith in all of it. And going out to SpaceX helped me with that, just seeing the people that build these rockets and how incredible they are. But, so I think it's easier for sure. I mean, I think a maturity in the process comes with it. And I don't know.
Yeah, having said that, I can't imagine, but it's got to be the hardest thing to do to see your loved one, whether it's your mom or dad or husband or wife, strapped into a rocket that's getting ready to take off. So, and I've heard other people say that as well, but it's got to be, heart-wrenching in a way. Once you get safely to orbit, which is about 9 minutes or so after liftoff, everybody breathes again. But those 9 minutes are tough. And it's, generally we're having a great ride. It's absolutely fantastic. We're pulling G's. We're accelerating ridiculously fast. It's just the coolest thing. But we know how hard those 9 minutes are on our families, so we don't take that lightly. And but once we get to orbit and we unbuckle and we're floating around, then we know everybody down to mission control as well as our families are breathing again.
Yeah.
There's this strange piece that once he's docked, even though it's up there and it's dangerous and all of that, it's just like, well, he's in Austin. He's as far away as Austin is to Houston. But it's just straight up. And so you do have this weird sense of a business trip, like he's just gone for a bit and then we get it back to normal. And it's weird. I mean, it's just your mind adjusting to your new reality, I think. And
there's a sense Robbie, of place and permanence and location.
Right. Yeah. And
having said that, Robbie, I'm sure she'll struggle at times and I've got to keep that in mind. And hopefully you guys and other friends will continue to check in on her and support her, because it's not easy, and it's not easy on any of us.
No, and there's been these weird gushing of emotions just these last couple of weeks, and I was like, oh yeah, we're about to launch again, and even him waking up this morning going, it's L minus 10 days, and I'm home, and I'm like, I know, and you're here to deal with all of this,
we're gardening together. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing yard work and gardening.
So weird.
Yeah, it's cool.
Wow. Yeah. So describe your thoughts and your feelings in those 9 minutes that you were talking about. Shane, for you, Robbie, like what is going on in your mind? What are those feelings as he's...
goodness. Well, last time, I actually cried, and I'm not, I'm pretty good at not crying. And I just kind of sobbed into my friend's chest, and I was all like, yay, let's get this party started, and get it done. And then it was in that moment that I went over and just like put my face in my friend's chest and just bawled my eyes out for a few. And I was like, was it 30 seconds or was it 5 minutes? I don't remember. Feels like it was 30 seconds, but and then it goes by quickly. But there was this weird of tears last time. I won't probably do that this time because my kids will be there. And there's this, and there's this weird sense of when you're a mother of staying strong for your kids and.
But you might.
But I might, yeah.
It's totally fine.
And they
you
might,
have freedom and permission to feel whatever you want to feel there.
Yeah, I'm not holding anything back. Is just how I am when I'm, I am definitely stronger when my kids are around. And
the setup this time is a little interesting because Robbie, she's in quarantine with me now. The kids are not, right? Because they're at school. So when they come to Florida, they will still have to be separated from Robbie and myself. So on launch day, they will be in the same place watching launch, but the kids will have to be about 10 feet away from Robbie.
Oh, gosh.
Until the engine's light. As soon as the engine's light, then the quarantine is off.
Oh my gosh! So talk about a you coming together.
There's going to be tears.
There's going to be tears. There's going to be tears.
Zach, shuttle awesome. Launch. There's pictures of us from behind a shuttle. Yeah, he's a little guy, and I'm probably squeezing him, to not being able to breathe. you know,
Mom,
but I
Like a
don't
little
remember.
stress
Listen
doll.
up, Mom.
And Caitlin Taylor on either side. And anyway,
Oh,
so,
that's
you
It's
know,
gonna
precious.
be a cool. It's gonna be a cool event, kind of.
but as soon
moment,
as they
I think.
light the candle, as they say,
As
you know,
they
they
say.
can, they can come over and hang out and hug and all that. So
Aw.
that'll be nice. For
Yeah.
sure.
Be
It's-
unique.
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah, it's just
As
every, you know, a lot
if
of
you
this
could
process
possibly
is-
script it to make an intense thing more intense, it's like all of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and I've asked a friend of mine whose husband's up right now who had college age kids. I was like, what did you do in Florida about, because I can't wait to see Zach. I haven't seen him since Christmas.
Wow.
And she's like, well, we sat 10 feet apart in the hallway of the hotel where we're staying and shared a pizza, you know, and I'm just like, well, you know what,
Yeah.
we're going to make this work. And,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing that, the launch when they're 10 feet away, is because if we happen to scrub for the day, which means we don't launch, then they'll keep them separated, so then I can then see Robbie that evening.
Yeah.
If they break the quarantine, then it's off the table, that I wouldn't get to see them again.
Yeah.
Which is what happened with Bob and Doug. Ended up getting moved
Yep.
because of the weather.
Yep,
Mhm.
weather exactly the first time.
First
So
thing, yeah.
anyway, so that's why we do this, to keep Robbie in a quarantine status so that we can see each other in case we don't launch that day.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Gosh.
Goodness. Makes all the sense
Okay,
in the
so
world.
Shane, in those 9 minutes, what are your feelings and thoughts?
You have to get butterflies.
No, I haven't yet. So we'll see how this one goes. But I've been my previous 2 launches, I hate to admit, I've been so calm and relaxed that I fell asleep on the launch pad both times.
Wow.
It's amazing.
I mean, you're sitting there for a couple hours, right? I mean, you're not really actively doing things for most of it. This one will be different. I'm the commander. Everybody is kind of looking at me. I'm going to be, the person in charge, and I won't have the chance to take that nap that I did in the last 2. But I still think I'm going to feel I feel the weight of all the situation for sure. But just the prayers, I know that people are lifting me up at the time, and it's been the way I just thought about people praying for me the last 2 launches as well. It just gave me this incredible sense of peace. Knowing I was right where I was supposed to be and where God wanted me to be at the time. So
That's beautiful.
the ride uphill is going to be amazing. It's going to be different. The shuttle ride going uphill was absolutely crazy and shaking and rocking and rolling and accelerating. And it was 8.5 minutes on shuttle, but for those 8.5 minutes, I was laughing continuously the whole time. I mean, it's the greatest ride you've ever been on. Just imagine a roller coaster you've been on or something cool for a couple seconds when you're pulling G's. It was 8.5 minutes of that. So
How many
really
G's was the max on the shuttle?
How many G's? It was about 3.5. Maybe got up to 4, but not crazy, but just fun. And of course, I was the rookie on the flight, so everybody's looking at me like he's a rookie.
You're giggling. He's got the giggles.
Giggling.
He's got the shuttle giggles.
But I still kind of had it on the second flight as well. But I'll have to.
So you giggled. You giggled on the Soyuz too, huh? It made you laugh.
Soyuz was super smooth. It was really just very smooth all the way up. Very easy ride. So it wasn't the sensations we had on shuttle. This one supposedly, according to my colleagues that have flown on SpaceX, say it's pretty spectacular. So
Oh my
looking forward to that.
gosh.
Do you know the G's on the Soyuz?
Yep. So we'll get up to 4 G's.
On the
a little over
Soyuz, is that
4
way?
Gs. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Soyuz is about 3 to 3.5 at
So
times.
very similar to shuttle.
Yeah, similar. Just different places where you hit those G's. And then SpaceX is going to be about a little over 4 as we head into first stage cutoff, and then before the second engine stage lights. And that's going to be a real kick in the pants. So that's going to be pretty awesome.
That's funny.
That's
Is that where you
amazing.
get to hit your wrists into your you have to watch out from hitting your visor?
But hopefully you keep your hands down. But because you're going to go weightless for a second right after pulling about 4 G's. The first stage main engines, all 9 of them will shut off, and you'll have a few seconds of this floating until the second engine lights, and then it's going to throw you in the back of your seat again. So
And that's where that big booster, the initial booster, falls away and then lands on that barge to be reused
Right.
That's
again.
amazing.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Gosh, so how long is the rocket when you're sitting on the launch pad? Do you know how tall it is there?
It's 70 meters. I only know that because we were talking to Thomas the other day, our French astronaut, and he was telling me in meters. So I haven't made the conversion yet.
Something like that.
I'm just curious, how tall are you when you get to the space station? What of the part that remains?
Oh, so it's just like 3.5, 4 meters. So maybe 8 to 10 feet, the whole capsule.
So the majority of it, of course, is what falls away,
Yep.
and you get
First
to the
stage is the big stage. It falls off. That's the one we took a picture next to last time you guys were here. Second stage is probably about a third of that size. and then that'll fall away.
And
then
that part does not get recycled, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. That'll just burn up in the atmosphere. And then we still have a little extra part connected to the capsule. It's called the trunk. And that's kind of has our solar rays and all of our power and things that we draw from on that until we get to space station. Once we get there, we connect to space station. And then we have these umbilicals that connect there. And then we draw power and data from the space station. So we don't have to use the ones on the SpaceX vehicle.
And then,
It's like my friend said, they charge up.
Yep.
They charge
yeah,
up.
it's our charging station.
very important.
Dang.
That's incredible. Well, I can't wait to hear how that ride goes and that feeling there. How did the shuttle landing at Edwards compare to the Gulfstream simulator when you finally did and go back a while?
Yeah, the profile was exactly the same. Having that experience, I knew obviously what to expect through our training as well. Now in the Gulfstream, you don't actually touch down because if you think of a Gulfstream sitting next to a shuttle on a runway, it's like 36 feet lower, than the shuttle cockpit. So in the Gulfstream, when we come down to land, you'd actually be at 36 feet, even though it says 0 in the cockpit. So we didn't actually touch down and have that feeling. So that was the first. Anytime you do that, it's the only time, or maybe a few times that you get to do that for real. And it was a really smooth, beautiful landing at Edwards Air Force Base that Chris Ferguson did on our flight.
Which was not the plan because originally you were going to land at Kennedy, but then the weather caused you to have to
exactly
go.
Yeah, we're supposed to go to Kennedy, which is that's where they worked on the vehicle, so it just makes sense to do that. Our families were all there waiting on us right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so we gave it a couple shots into Kennedy, didn't work, so we ended up landed at Edwards, and then reunited with them the next day back in Houston.
So everyone's in Kennedy, like with banners and pendants.
Yeah.
And yay!
Exactly.
And then how far out did you know? Because I'm just thinking about the calculations needed to leave the space station and to land in California instead of Florida when the angle you go through the atmosphere is everything. Because just a minute ago you talked about something burning up in the atmosphere, which is a very real problem, as is bouncing off the atmosphere and careening off into space infinitely. So just how far out were they? Like, yeah, we're not landing in Kennedy. Now quickly, nerds, do the math. And
Oh my gosh.
The mission control teams had it all lined up for us. And I had several opportunities that one day we're going to land. We knew we had a couple chances at Kennedy and then a follow-on chance at
same day.
Edwards Air Force Base the same day. So,
okay, that's what I'm asking. Were you already in the vehicle when they told you where you were going to be going? Okay.
Yeah. So it took usually a couple of days to get home from the space station with Space Shuttle, and it's the same with SpaceX right now. So we'll be orbiting a couple more days, and then that opens up different opportunities for landings.
Because you're just orbiting the Earth until you decide to insert yourself into the.
And then once you make that, what we call the deorbit burn, where you're burning through the atmosphere, then you're committed. So in Space Shuttle, we were committed to a specific runway, and so until that happened, you're not committed. We could kind of we couldn't float around forever, but we could extend the mission as long as we needed to get a good site to land at.
That is so cool. And I also love the SpaceX messages. Didn't they put messages into the parachutes that come out?
Yeah, they did that on the first couple of flights. Yeah, so we'll see if they do that as well on ours. I don't know.
You guys won't know until it comes out.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we won't know ever probably unless
I didn't even
somebody
know
tells
about
us.
that.
Yeah,
Until
true.
someone
I had
tells
no
us.
idea about that. Yeah, you just taught me something about space.
Well, and something too, I think on the recent Mars, what's the name of the rover that's up there? Curiosity? Perseverance. There's some beautiful, keep going, or some basically in the pattern of orange and white of the parachute that landed on Mars. There's some message embedded. Yep. I love NASA Easter eggs. It's one of my favorite things ever because those programmers, they're just sitting there, just a little bored, throw a little funny thing into this.
Yeah, why not?
Cool.
Above and beyond.
Cool stories. Makes a personal touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what have you heard about the re-entry landing as distinct from the Soyuz, which obviously we've seen video of your landing. If anyone hasn't, please go on Shane Kimbrough's Instagram and watch the Soyuz landing.
It's painful to watch.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. I've heard, I think the entry is going to be pretty similar. Honestly, it's a capsule. It's coming down.
Heat shield on the bottom of it, all that.
Yeah, we're going to get thrown around quite a bit. It's going to be a pretty dynamic time. Even when the parachute's open, we're going to pull about 2 or 3 Gs at a couple different moments when the parachutes are disreefing, they call it, and opening up. So, but those will be good G pulls because we know the parachutes are out, right? So that's going to be exciting for us to feel that. And then once you get under the mains, you settle out pretty well for the last 2 or 3 minutes of the flight. It gets pretty, the rate slows down quite a bit when the mains open, the main parachutes open. And then the splashdown, you would think it'd be pretty soft, but from what Bob and Doug said, you hit pretty hard. So I imagine it'll be a little softer than hitting the ground like it did the last time. But I look forward to feeling it and comparing it to what we did last time.
Yeah, water versus Earth. If you had to choose, it's like I'm going to go water. I'm going to land from space. I'm going to pick water.
Thing. But what you have to deal with now, and we're going to have to deal with, is then potentially getting seasick on top of coming back into gravity, right? So it's a whole nother physical dynamic that we're all going to have to deal with that fly on SpaceX.
And Robbie, what is the reentry as compared to launch for you psychologically?
Oh, well, I watch it from here. I watch it from Mission Control, versus going to Florida for shuttle. And Soyuz, we just watched. But he was home 24 hours.
How do you feel watching it? What
I'm saying is that as challenging for you as launch, or
yes, 100% launch, landing. Spacewalk days. Need prayer on all those days for sure. It's a tense moment. It's a tense few moments. Interesting. Are you about to tell the off-gassing or whatever story?
So it was a beautiful, clear day when we came in on Soyuz about 4 years ago. Yeah. And it was so clear that they picked us up with the cameras way earlier than apparently they had ever. Yeah. And so it looks like there's all this gas coming out of the vehicle, but it looks like smoke and it looks like we're on fire.
And we're pretty prepared. I mean, they prep us well. They brief us, on what to expect and all that kind of stuff.
So Robbie's sitting in Mission Control, and she's got some astronauts around her and our family there, and nobody knew what this
I was like, what's all that?
Was coming out of the vehicle. Nobody can answer the question that the spouse had here.
Oh my gosh.
Why are they venting? What are they venting?
Exactly. And I'd watched enough to know, I'd not seen it before. So it would look like smoke completely.
So that was a little disheartening for a bit until they figured out
somebody
what it was, and it
told
was totally normal.
What was
the person
venting,
in the room what it was, and then that it was totally normal, and they just normally we don't see it because we don't have such a good camera angle. So.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so it's definitely tense. I don't know if I prefer one. I definitely prefer landing because you're home, but it's just a happy feeling for sure. It's a joy that I can't. I think of people coming home from war and. Being gone for a while.
We had one of our last simulations was this morning, and Megan and I were in the cockpit flying the undocks of the day we leave, and then we do a fly around of the space station and start coming home. And so during this simulation after we undocked, Megan's like, "I'm going to be so happy on this day." Yeah. I was like, "Me too." So we're already. She has a small child,
7-year-old.
Oh wow!
It's going to be. That day is going to be really fun for all of us.
Yeah, it is a happy day. I mean, it's the best.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have any cool stories of just what it feels like to pray? I would just think you guys, your time together on the phone, that it must be a pretty neat sensation to pray with you're on earth, Shane's in, the heavens, but you're speaking to God in heaven together. What is that like?
Yeah. At times it's good, but at times it's hard too. It's kind of forced, at least on the last flight, it was forced a bit sometimes. And we just didn't do it enough, honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot of correction being made this time around.
So we're learning our lessons, and hopefully we're going to do a better job this time for sure.
A neat story was you reading Luke 2.
Oh, yeah.
It was Christmas.
Yeah, I don't know if we shared this with you before, but I got a chance to, actually a friend of mine emailed me a couple weeks before Christmas and said, "Hey, why don't you read the Christmas story from the space station?" I was like, no, they'll never let me do that. It's religious and whatever. And so finally I got the courage, I guess, to ask my boss and said, "Hey, can I do this?" And he was like, "Sure, why not?" I was like, "What?" so got up got open that door pretty amazingly. And then the cool part about it was, so on Christmas morning, got up, went to the cupola, which is this module we have on the space station of all windows that looks at Earth. So I was, reading Luke 2, and not just reading it, but getting the microphone out, reading it to all the mission control centers around the world. And apparently this had never been done before. So it just made it really special to me to be able to do that and to share, with all the flight controllers around the world. Some of them maybe have never heard this story or never, heard it in that way. And hopefully I influenced them in some little way. But it was just a cool thing for me.
A good memory.
There's kind of these morale boost things that happen every maybe month or so while you're up there. And that was just one of those. It was I just felt so grateful to be able to do that, with that platform.
That is all. Do you have the audio of it?
That's beautiful.
I do, and it's not very good, honestly. It's just, I'm like, man, I should have done that better.
Yeah, it's those things that you learn, and
Right.
I thought I was, I don't know. It was just
You're channeling some
it's weird to listen
sweet
to yourself
Apollo
again.
8 vibes on that, though. By the way, that's you got a great foundation you're standing on, and many years later, and a whole different generation of people at the helm who did get to hear that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And kind of a few days before that was really a neat thing that all the mission control teams did for us was they got out and, they had like a line each of a Christmas story, right? And they were reading it, a Japanese person would read a line, and then a Russian person would read a line, and then a US person would read a line, and then a Canadian, and so all of these people from the mission control centers got together and read us up, their version of a Christmas story, the kind of the secular version, but it was just really cool and unique. And little did they know I had something coming for them.
That's incredible. I love that so much. Wow.
Well, you guys' time is precious, and we want to get you guys on your way in your 10 days of continuing countdown and the gardening that needs to get done. I'll tell you this,
let it grow.
Jenny and myself, we are both so proud of you guys. You were inspired by you. I know we're speaking for everybody listening who is just blown away listening to you guys' faith and your hearts and shine, just your spirits that shine forth. And we will be praying for you, Robbie, throughout every minute from now until he's back home and beyond. And I'm sure God will prove himself faithful as he has continued to be.
Yeah.
And we'll be praying for you, Shane. Thank you for going, for doing this, and just the inspiration you are for me that shows what it's like to shine brightly at what you do with all your heart, that you're honoring God as you show up for duty here. And so we'll be praying for you for a safe mission and for Godspeed and a safe return back home to earth. And we'll also be praying for your kids. And of course, it goes without saying, they're all welcome up here. If anytime they want to come up here to Montana,
we're all coming this summer.
And we are eager to get all of you back up here once Shane, you're back on Earth again. But you guys are incredible, and God is most certainly going to continue to use you guys as lights and life as you guys shine as you do.
Yes,
we
love you guys.
We're so thankful
for
your for your friendship. It just means the world to us, and you're such a blessing to us. Just your words of encouragement.
Yeah, thank you.
Love you.
Make me cry.
Thank you so much for listening. And be sure to swing by LeviLusko.com to see what's going on in our world, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. In the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media. Jenny and Levi Lusko, out.